Did you ever have a car that was making a strange noise, but instead of getting it fixed by a mechanic, you just turned the radio up louder? Of course you didn't do that because you're an adult and you can see what happens when you ignore the warning signs. You know, the warning signs. Welcome to America.
Wall Street Journal just dropped a story under this headline, quote, Trump draft executive order would create board to purge generals. The panel could upend the military review process and raise concerns about the politicization of the military. Quote, the Trump transition team is considering a draft executive order that establishes a warrior board of retired senior military personnel with the power to review 3- and 4-star officers and to recommend removals of any deemed unfit for leadership. If Trump approves the order, it could fast-track the removal of generals and admirals found to be lacking in requisite leadership qualities, but it could also create a chilling effect on top military officers, given the president-elect's past vow to fire woke generals.
So to summarize, Trump's transition team, seen right here.
We represent the lollipop guild, the lollipop guild, the lollipop guild.
Well, they want to draft an executive order that would establish a warrior board to review top military officers. This board would consist of retired senior military members who would then review 3- and 4-star generals and recommend the removal of those deemed unfit.
Here's my plan to dismantle the deep state and reclaim our democracy from Washington corruption. Once and for all.
And then recommend the removal of those deemed unfit. Now, when Trump says unfit, he means anyone who won't kiss his ass and send soldiers into cities to arrest protesters and brown people under his deportation commands.
They're poisoning the blood of our country.
And this mini MAGA board could remove any officer deemed lacking in requisite leadership ability. Of course, that means anyone unwilling to put their lips up to that brown stain. This guy, Paul Eaton, a retired major general, said this board would be remembered as the first step in remaking the military from an apolitical force loyal to the Constitution into a MAGA military pledging fealty to Donald Trump. Well, that kind of sucks.
I want to be a dictator.
But this isn't a surprise to anyone. As General Milley said, Trump's former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and the nation's highest-ranking military officer,
President Trump recently said that your dealings with China were so egregious that in times gone by, the punishment would have been death.
That's right, he said that. As much as these comments are directed at me, it's also directed at the institution of the military. And there's 2.1 million of us in uniform. And the American people can take it to the bank that all of us, every single one of us, from private to general, we're loyal to that Constitution and we'll never turn our back on it no matter what the threats, no matter what the humiliation, no matter what. If we're willing to die for that document, if we're willing to deploy to combat, if we're willing to lose an arm, a leg, an eye, to protect and support and defend that document and protect the American people, then we're willing to live for it too. So I'm not going to comment directly on those things, but I can tell you that this military, this soldier, me, will never turn our back on that Constitution.
Now, of course, this is dangerous and insane, and Milley is right. The military is tasked with defending the Constitution, not aiding and abetting this flabby, diapered, skin-tagged, traitor, racist, raping, cognitively collapsing shitbird. And once you cross that line, what's next? Suspending elections?
President for life, that sounds good.
Now, if you want to really drive him crazy, you say 12 more years.
We'll get to that in a second. First, though, Trump wasn't f***ing around when he said he wanted to be a dictator. And his appointments for his cabinet, well, they'd be comical if they weren't so dangerous.
President Trump just announcing that our own Pete Hegseth will be his Secretary of Defense.
Whoa, so Trump is appointing a former Fox host to be Secretary of Defense? What? Hannity wasn't available? Listen to this idiot.
I'm straight up just saying we should not have women in combat roles. It hasn't made us more effective, hasn't made us more lethal, has made fighting more complicated.
All right, okay, so this guy is supporting the hump who said this.
The Atlantic magazine reports that on that specific visit, Donald Trump told staff, "Why should I go to that cemetery? It's filled with losers."
And of course, Donnie Bonespur's opinion of women is well known.
Whether the women like it or not. I moved on her like a bitch.
But here's the other side of the coin. If I were a woman and had to listen to this from these MAGA boys.
The feel when you're totally not pressed. The feel when we control your bodies. Hey, we control your bodies. Guess what? Guys win again, okay? Men win again. And yes, we control your bodies. It's your body, my choice. And men, women again. Men win again. There will never, ever never be a female president. Never. There will never be a female president ever. We will keep you down forever. You will never control your own bodies. You will never be the president of the global empire. Never gonna happen, sweetie.
Well, that whole Second Amendment thing might take on a whole new meaning.
Get away from her, you bitch!
Hegseth actually said this: just like the Christian crusaders who pushed back the Muslim hordes in the 12th century, American crusaders will need to muster the same courage against Islamists today. Wow. Now, the definition of an Islamist is a person who believes strongly in Islam, especially one who believes that Islam should influence political systems. Okay, now substitute Christian for Islam in that sentence, and you have MAGA and the Republican Party.
If you don't like our religion, then we don't want you in our country.
This guy's also against intellectuals, which is what the ignorant usually do and are.
Alma mater. I have a new rule. The more elite the university and advanced that a graduate is, the dumber they are. The less likely I am to trust them. If you went to the Ivy League, prove to me that you have any common sense at all.
You went Ivy League, right?
Yes, and I sent one of my degrees back.
All right, back to the purging of military leaders. Trump is mentally ill, and as his growing paranoia manifests itself into a full-fledged sociopathy, whatever small amount of loyalty remains will disappear the moment someone questions him. And Trump's cognitive abilities are slipping south faster than his collapsing man titties.
Just how vexing was it to Donald Trump that he couldn't get the military to heel to his commands and wishes?
Yeah, I do think this is an issue that has long perplexed him. We know that from John Kelly in his interview that he did with the New York Times, that John Kelly said that Trump wanted generals like Hitler's. He wants people who will carry out every wish and demand of his and receive zero pushback.
I mean, seriously, two questions. Whose advice will contain his childlike tantrums? Trump is drawn to his hillbilly base, and they're the very same people that both Tiny Fingers and Hegseth seem to adore. Ignorant, uneducated white men.
You know what? So what if he wants to grab pussy? I want to grab pussy.
And secondly, who will support military leaders as they defend the Constitution against a madman? And part two to that question, who will protect those who support the military?
That an illegal and you just...
And you have to ask yourself, is Trump operating on fumes, or is he a puppet with somebody else's hand up his ass? And if so, who's really in charge? People used to mock Biden, but Trump talks and acts like a 90-year-old sniffing glue.
90% of the time, I have no idea what the f*** I'm talking about.
And the latest bit of news, Trump is now saying it out loud. Why couldn't he run again in 2028? Now, as insane as that is, because by 2028, Trump will be able to wipe his ass, much less have a conversation, it is further evidence that MAGA and the Republican Party have zero respect for the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. They're like carnival workers, not paying attention as the ride makes funny noises and screws and nuts and bolts start falling to the ground.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
The Trump carnival is just getting started, and to continue that metaphor, it will truly be a freak show.
Damn right.
This is not a normal election.
Whether the women like it or not.
Suck my fat one.
Who's with me?
Yes!
Tick-tock, mother...
They're eating the dogs.
This isn't their Republican Party anymore.
Trust me.
Shut the f*** up, Dan. Who's with me?
Oh, yeah, the lie.
Indictable.
Out of sheer morbid curiosity, I'm allowing this freak show to continue.
I don't want to talk about this stuff.
Am I wrong?
Yes!
Tick-tock,
You're in a lot of trouble, Donnie.
I think he's crazy.
I'm Chip Franklin.